Hello guys, this is Dr. Oregon, just wishing you well as you prepare for your final exams. But I thought there would be value in just highlighting some of the areas that still look problematic even from assignment 4. One of those is a wrong interpretation of a question. We have established that for you to approach an essay in an organized manner, you have to understand the question. One way of doing it is understanding the various segments that make up the question. If there are any words that are a bit challenging for you, we expect you to look it up and understand it. So we're going to start by looking at this one example. Consequences of personal debt for the individual. Consequences. We all would have understood this to mean the effects of personal debt. Okay? Now this person said gambling, not maintaining a budget, and a reduced income are consequences of personal debt for the individual. One has to worry if the student misinterpreted the word consequences to mean effects, because it seems to me that it's very unlikely that somebody will go and gamble because they're in debt. Instead, gambling is more likely to lead somebody into debt. Not maintaining a budget, the second variable in the student's thesis, also indicates that the student is more likely, the person is more likely to become indebted because they do not maintain a budget, rather than them not maintaining a budget being an effect of being in debt. I hope this is making sense. All right, I just need you to be careful that every word you choose in your thesis helps you to make your point. So I'm going to quickly skip over that. This is an example of a vague thesis. Again, the topic is a consequence of personal debt for the family. This person says, being in debt, okay, being in debt leads to a number of emotional and psychological issues. First, one has to worry, because this dichotomy is not so clear. Emotional issues can spring from psychological factors. Psychological issues can envelop emotional issues. But guess what becomes even more problematic? The student comes to the topic sentence, and instead of even holding on to what would have worked as emotional and psychological issues, which in itself is a problem because it's vague, this person says depression and anxiety. So my question is, where is depression and anxiety in your thesis? Is this an emotional issue or is it a psychological issue? And you're going to see already that we have a problem with this thesis statement and the topic sentence. Stress. Is stress equivalent to emotional issue or psychological issue? It would have made a lot more sense if this person wanted to go with this thesis to say, for example, emotional issues, and then give a thesis that definitely says somebody who is in personal debt is likely to experience this kind of emotional issue, and be specific about the emotional issue. We've said when you say a number of, you create a problem, because while 1 or 2 may be a number of issues for you, for me a number could be 6. So you're going to be shooting yourself in the foot if you do not specify in your thesis what you want to say. Your examiner can judge you by what they know of the subject rather than by what you have said you're going to do, because you were not specific in your thesis. Okay, the next thing I want to quickly mention is example of informal language. These are put in 2 segments: informal language or shift in pronoun reference. So for example, I wanted to do this because I was trying to see if I could do this quickly. Forgive me. This person says, with money on your mind, it is natural to worry. This doesn't sound like an academic essay. Okay, for one thing, money on your mind, who is you? Are you writing for your friend? We have said that the academic essays, academic expositions are supposed to be objective. So we don't want to say my or we or you, because that makes it very informal. You're allowed to write in objective terms. So with money issues usually make people do, write in the third person, you'll be safe because it has to be objective. If I feel it's you talking to me, your biases are involved, my biases are involved, it can no longer be qualified to be called an academic exposition. So mind your language. And then in addition to this informality, there is a shift. So here we say, with money on your mind. And then we get to the next sentence, we say, they are unable. Who is they? Because your cannot translate to they in the same paragraph. Is they the same as your? The answer is no. But because this person has already started in this wrong note, it's difficult to tweak this sentence. However, if one said, with money on a person's mind, right? I mean, all of this is wrong, but I'm just trying to work on the person part. With money on a person's mind, it is natural to worry. Or with money on people's minds, right? So this will now become it is natural to worry. This they will then mean people, right? But until that is established, money on your mind has already thrown off the sentence. That they makes no sense, all right? And then they are unable to fall asleep thinking about how ends are going to meet. This language is very informal. You do not have expressions of this nature in an academic exposition. If you must use them because you are quoting somebody or you are referring to something that everyone is familiar with, put it in quotation marks so we know you're doing it on purpose. Sorry guys, I'm rushing, but I really want to get all of this so that and I don't want it to be too long either, because I don't want you to be burdened while you listen to this. The next this is another example. When a person becomes dedicated to making their spending, a person cannot choose the pronoun there. It will have to be his or her. When a person becomes dedicated to making his or her spending, right? So this, for this sentence to be grammatically correct, this would have to change, right? Of there again, it continues with it there. Now, if you know you're more comfortable with writing in the third person, then maintain all of your references in the third person when people become dedicated, when individuals, or you know what I mean? Keep it. Do not confuse your reader by shifting. Then to make this sentence worse, it's so confusing that at the end we're not sure what this person wanted to say. When a person becomes dedicated to making their spending and saving policies a part of their everyday decision-making process, then they begin to become second nature. I have no idea what this person wants to say. So in order to be understood adequately, it's important that you keep your sentences simple. I appreciate wanting to write in complex sentences, but if it's going to create confusion, keep the sentences simple. And then look at it. Personal debt always funds consumption rather than investment. Again, this is we're not writing an argument, and this is subjective. So you want to be sure that you stay as objective as possible. Of course, it is possible that most of what is considered personal debt was acquired through consumption rather than investment. But there are people who acquire personal debts from student loans, from more noble facts. So that becomes subjective. So you have to watch your language in expositions, right? And then this student goes on to say, however, by following these steps, one can put themselves, again, one and themselves it cannot be referring to the same person. So if we're referring to that same one, it will be one can put oneself in a better position to deal with financial shocks that life may throw in that person's direction. So whatever your subject is, maintain it so that the referent is talking about the same thing. Now I'm just going to quickly mention this example of poor conclusion. For one, this is not a sentence, not a paragraph, because it is one sentence, regardless of what situation has, and then there is a grammatical error. regardless of what situation has caused, this should be a past tense, want to be in debt, causes emotional and psychological issues that can cause devastating effects to an individual. People, this is a language course. You're not going to be able to pull through unless you've addressed your language issues. And one of the ways to do it is to keep it simple. Remember the topic, keep it in focus, let your thesis work together. Let the topic sentences spring directly from the thesis. Let your topic sentences be specific on what you're going to talk about, and mind your language. Avoid informal usages. Let your pronoun reference be referring to the same noun that they're supposed to refer to. Do not shift. And then make enough time to revise your work. Do not write up until when time is up and submit without doing a review. I wish you all the best, and I'm looking forward to hearing all those good reports at the end of the semester. Bless you. Again, this is Dr. Oregon for my students. Have a great week.